Welcome, Dolphins fans, haters, and everyone in between to your favorite show discussing the greatest franchise in sports, the Miami Dolphins. This is the Fins Pod. My name is Moose, your host, and we have it, ladies and gentlemen, the final 53-man roster for your Miami Dolphins. And today, we're going to look at the team and give a grade for each position group because, to be honest, there were some surprising cuts, whether it be the release of a former Pro Bowl linebacker or the continued career of a return specialist. The 2021 Miami roster has some intriguing developments across the board. We're going to get into all of that and a lot more. So strap up and let's dive in.
Instead, to me, this is just about the moment. This is about Brian Flores walking into a room, looking at his players, not in a press conference, not trying to figure out the right words to use with the media, but instead looking his players in the eyes and saying, Tua Tagovailoa is our quarterback. So to me, what this says, based on my conversations, is that Tua is going to get every opportunity in this season to prove his value. At that point, Flores and Chris Grier, the general manager, will make their evaluations. Does it mean that Deshaun Watson won't end up in a Dolphins uniform at some time? Who knows? I'm not saying that. I'm saying that right now, Flores walked into that team meeting and said to his team that Tua Tagovailoa is our guy moving forward.
The season is upon us. Brian Flores and the coaching staff are now firmly looking ahead at New England as they begin their Week 1 preparations. And the game plan that's being crafted now, it's going to be a direct product of the current roster. How Miami chooses to attack New England, both on the offensive and defensive sides of the ball, are going to be determined by packages and sub-packages which utilize certain players and try to enhance their strengths and cover up those weaknesses. So with that in mind, let's see who made the final cut. At quarterback, no surprises here. Miami's going into the year with Tua Tagovailoa as the starter and Jacoby Brissett as the backup. Unfortunately, Reid Sinnett was waived, but hopefully, by the time you're hearing this, he wasn't poached and was signed to our practice squad. And we're going to touch more on this later in the week, but I personally am so excited to see what the young Hawaiian has in store for everyone amidst all the doubt, trade speculation, which we have purposefully avoided here on the show, as well as the constant doubt about his play style and general ability to succeed in the NFL. Tua Tagovailoa now has a chance, as good as any, to prove to everyone the exact caliber of quarterback that he is. I personally expect a lot, and I know plenty of you listening do as well. The whole point of drafting the kid was because there was something special about his ability to see the game and play like a true distributor, accurate, safe with the football, decisive, as well as athletic. In his greatest moments thus far, we've seen those flashes, that ability. Now, with new weapons and plenty of them, which we're going to talk about, the pressure is now firmly on Tua to perform. If he doesn't, well, that just sucks. And we'll get to that, and we'll deal with that and cross that bridge when we have to, which we've dealt with many crappy bridges before. So it's not going to be the first time if things go sour. But you know what I actually think is going to happen? Tua isn't going to suck, because he hasn't so far in his young career. Damn, he's shown quite a lot of promise, and I, for one, hope to see him throw it all over the yard like we know he's capable of doing. It should be exciting. Brissett is right there behind him as well, a solid veteran backup with experience under Flores, as well as some athletic ability of his own. So if Tua does go down for a game or two, I will feel very comfortable having Jacoby Brissett in the game plan. So for the position group as is, I'm going with an A-. Look, an A+ is for a team with a solidified stud at quarterback. An A is someone who is all but there. A-, that's Tua. He definitely isn't a B, and if he is or ends up failing, I will look dumb, but I will die on this hill. I'm willing to die on this hill. Tua and the quarterbacks get an A-. A little bit of projection, but if Tua plays well, definitely an A room. At running back, this is frankly one of the surprises for me. The Dolphins only kept 3 running backs, not 4, which I assumed, and I thought 4 was small enough, but 3. So Miami's likely going to be picking up another running back by the time you're hearing this through the waiver wire, maybe, picking up an undrafted guy, who knows. But regardless, neither Patrick Laird nor Jared Dokes made the final cut. Jared Dokes is likely going to be placed on the practice squad, so we may see him during the regular season in case of injury. It kind of sucks on the Dokes front because I thought he ran pretty hard, and that element is generally lacking on our roster right now. Malcolm Brown better not be your only option in the short yardage department. If so, we may be in trouble. But hopefully Grier is scouring the waiver wire, like we said, to find a new option, someone who can be an every down back, not necessarily a starting every down back, but someone respectable. Time's going to tell how Miami approaches this one. But for the position group as a whole, considering the lack of depth and the limitations of the runners they do have, I have to go B. It's not a C or worse grade because Myles Gaskin is damn good, and Salvon Ahmed has flashed as well. It's just the fact that Miami's gone from Jordan Howard to Malcolm Brown. A very slight upgrade. Hopefully Brown proves me wrong, but for now, he's likely mediocre, which gives the room a B. On the offensive line, and also, guys, if you disagree with any of these grades, you feel like I'm going way too easy, because I highly doubt I'm going to be accused of going too hard. But if I'm going too easy, let me know, because I know a lot of fans out there are not happy with the way the Dolphins have addressed the running back position. Personally, I love our strategy, because I'm sorry, drafting running backs in the top 2 or 3 rounds is not necessary. Find them in the 5th, 6th, and 7th round. That's where you get them, especially when you're running an offense that's designed with running back by committee, like the Dolphins do. Since the Grier era, our running game has been stunted by one thing only, the offensive line, not the running back itself. Whenever we have a solid offensive line, the running game looks great. Jay Ajayi, anybody? So, again, it's important to remember the offensive line is what matters for the running game, far more than the actual players themselves, which sucks. It sucks that the running back position, one of the most exciting and used to be the sexiest position in the game, it's been devalued. It's a passing league now, and with that, the value has gone down. So moving to the important part of the run game, the offensive line, also not too many surprises here. The line that we thought would be starting is intact, and the depth surrounding them isn't too surprising as well, albeit a little concerning. You have the usual suspects, Austin Jackson, Jesse Davis, Liam Eichenberg, and Greg Little all at tackle. And to be honest, Greg Little on this team is my least favorite keep. He looks very meh on the field, especially when he played against the Bears and the Falcons. But hey, the coaching staff knows more than I. At the guard position, Miami retained Solomon Kindley, Robert Hunt, Michael Dieter at center, as well as recently acquired Greg Manx, as well as undrafted rookie Robert Jones, who plays guard. It is great to see a young guy earn his keep on the final 53, and hopefully he can serve as some good young depth. In terms of cuts, nothing too surprising here. Larnell Coleman was the only one who's likely going to end up being retained on the practice squad, like we thought would happen in the episodes past. He was given an IR designation, so prior to the final cut down, so Miami's essentially redshirting him for the year. Derval Neto was also waived, unfortunately, but because of his exemption, Miami's likely going to bring him back on the practice squad as well, which I want to see. Matt Skura, he's out of here. The Greg Manx trade pretty much confirmed that, and Michael Dieter's solid play at center all but made Skura, useless for this offense. As a whole, the offensive line gets a C+. And the plus is the bit of optimism that I have, because at the end of the day, we have some lottery tickets out there who could hit. Guys like Robert Hunt, Solomon Kindley, Austin Jackson, and even Liam Eichenberg. These are young guys who are going to get every opportunity to gel and work together as a unit, improve as the season goes along. I've said it before and I'll say it again, time is going to tell with this. But the lack of star power, consistency, and the alarming thinness in terms of depth leave the O-line with the grade of a C+. Now here's where things get really interesting. The Dolphins have kept far more pass catchers than I think they ever have before. Now, whether this is just a reflection of the times and how football is now a passing game, or if it just means that our team is going to be very pass heavy this year, I'm not entirely sure. Probably the latter, but anyway, Miami has their plans of keeping 12 receiving options, 12. Starting with the obvious, Will Fuller. Doesn't technically count because he is suspended, so he doesn't count on the active roster right now. Miami's going to have to shift someone to the practice squad once they bring him back for week 2. Of course, Devontae Parker, Albert Wilson, Jalen Waddle, Preston Williams, who we'll get to, Mac Hollins, and Jakeem Grant. First on Jakeem, I'm going to have to admit this. I was wrong here. The fella carved out a role on this team, combined with his return ability, which is electric, as well as his potential in the receiving game. He is roster-worthy, according to the Dolphins coaches. I may not agree. I personally would rather have taken a chance on Kirk Merritt or hell, Malcolm Perry, who was just snagged up by the Patriots like we all saw coming. But no, Jakeem Grant restructures his contract, taking off years and lowering his salary just to stay on the team. You win, Jakeem. If you're going to do that and work with the team that much and drop from $4 to, I believe, $2 million or maybe $3 million, but that definitely helps the team out and will help your case immensely with staying on the roster. And hopefully he earns his keep, because if Jakeem Grant, the receiver, not the returner, if Jakeem Grant, the receiver, puts it all together in this offense with Will Fuller and Jalen Waddle, having a good Jakeem Grant makes you freaking explosive. That's hella optimistic, I know, but we have to rationalize it now because Mighty Mouse returns once again. Now, here's my fear. Malcolm Perry gets signed by New England, and that happened. It was a fear I had. I would rather have had Jakeem do it because, look, Malcolm Perry is a guy who is likely going to do wonderfully up there. I would hate to see him develop into kind of like their new slot guy, and I guess you can say the same thing about Jakeem if we let him go, but at this point, Grant has had more time to show it. Malcolm has flashed, and hopefully Miami could get him if he doesn't work out in New England, bring him back, but I highly doubt he's not going to work out in New England. He is exactly a Belichick guy, former Navy quarterback, converted quarterback to receiver like an Edelman. I just think he is a perfect fit for our scheme, which is being run by New England, which is why the Patriots snatched him up. It's just that we have better depth and better talent at the top, which is why a guy like Kirk Merritt and Malcolm Perry could not make the team. But look, at the end of the day, Miami's unit overall, it's great. But we need to talk about Preston Williams because a lot of fans are upset that Miami chose to keep Preston over Kirk Merritt or Malcolm Perry. No, I disagree. Stop that. Look, as frustrating as it is that Preston Williams hasn't been able to stay healthy and that he was coming back in camp slowly, ramping it up, easing his way into the season, many feel like he didn't earn his spot because we saw him once for a few snaps while we saw Kirk Merritt ball out. And unlike Merritt and Malcolm, he has shown elite talent, though, in actual NFL games. Preston Williams can flat out ball, and although he has some drop problems, he's definitely someone you want to keep working with. And the limited reps, it's going to help him. He won't be overused, and he can actually stay healthy because now he's your fifth receiver. He's not your second receiver. So having him in a rotational role is damn great as long as he stays healthy. So I'm sorry, Preston Williams is better than Kirk Merritt, and he is better than Malcolm Perry. If you want to argue Jakeem, I'm right there with you. But again, Preston Williams is a red zone threat, a deep threat, and an absolute mismatch physically. And if you remember last year, prior to his injury, Tua had some great chemistry flowing with him in that Cardinals game. Regardless, the point here is that the Dolphins may now lose out on potentially a couple young guys, Malcolm Perry to New England, and Kirk Merritt if he isn't able to be re-signed. But the guys that they have now on the roster, that is a loaded and fast group. The Dolphins should make fireworks this fall. The position group as a whole gets an A. It would be an A+, if not for the injury proneness of most everyone in the room. If the football gods look favorably upon us and injuries don't ravage us, we should be in for a treat. So that's why the group gets an A. And again, when was the last time we were looking at the last two cuts as actual guys? We were like, oh, but we want to keep them. Oh, they could be contributors to this team going forward. That's a good thing. It means we're drafting well. We're bringing in talent. And the fact that we're cutting guys who are now being picked up by teams that, according to ESPN, are better than the Dolphins. If they were, then I don't know why they're picking up our scraps because we're not picking up any of theirs. That's just my 2 cents on that one. But the receiving group gets an A because I'm excited for the talent that they have. Moving on to the other pass catchers, the tight ends. So again, that's 7 receivers. So for the tight ends, Miami decided to keep 5. And I'm going to be honest, that's way more than I thought they would. You got the obvious ones, Mike Gesicki, Durham Smythe, Adam Shaheen, and Hunter Long, as well as Cethan Carter, who made the cut. And I guess Miami bringing in Cethan on that 2-year deal meant a lot more than we realized because he was likely targeted early in the process for a certain role, either as a fullback in special teams or elsewhere, because due to his injury, he did miss a lot of camp and preseason games too. You wouldn't think that he was someone who had earned a spot from his previous play in the league. But again, the fact that Miami identified him early in the free agent process and signed him means they had a role in mind. So at the very least, he's shown that he can fulfill that role. Hopefully, he'll be able to contribute in the passing game as well. Regardless, the tight end room as a whole gets a B+. I would go A-, but I do not want to be accused of being a homer. Even though this is literally the Fins Pod, it's a Dolphins podcast, don't want to be a homer. A B+ is good because you got a stud in Gesicki, but not much after that. I mean, the combination of Shaheen and Smythe is decent, but we've already seen that combination having its limits. Hopefully Hunter Long can develop into a piece for us, but again, you can't bank on that in his rookie year. Ethan Carter is there too, but he may not see much action unless there is injury. Moving to the defense, there were definitely some major surprises, starting with the core of this unit and where there was the least turnover, the secondary. At cornerback, Miami's bringing back a fresh and healthy Xavier Howard, Byron Jones, Nick Needham, Justin Coleman, Noah Igbenogany, Jamal Perry, as well as undrafted rookie Trill Williams. I am amped to see both Trill and Jamal Perry make the roster. Injuries are inevitable, and especially for these guys at corner who are running around, making cuts, and putting their body in all sorts of awkward positions. Corners are just prone to get hurt, especially X and Byron Jones, who have shown injury history in the past. Having solid depth is supremely important to this team's success on defense. Trill Williams, he's probably going to change his number from 51 to something a bit sleeker, but I have liked him since he signed on as an undrafted free agent. I truly believe he can be groomed to be that Eric Rowe successor. We've talked about this before, but that's the role I envision the Dolphins having for him. A big, physical corner who also possesses solid speed and athleticism, essentially a corner who can actually match up with bigger targets and modern-day tight ends. Trill can eventually take on Rowe's responsibilities in this scheme, as well as, in case of injury, in future seasons, we might see Trill Williams be essentially a cap-saving guy when Miami wants to move on from Eric Rowe, who's now getting a bit older, and he used to be very injury-prone prior to him coming to Miami, where he's been remarkably healthy. So hopefully that continues, but having another big physical corner like Trill, in case of an injury to Rowe, is great. And Jamal Perry, he's a guy who may have his limits. He does. He gets burned, unfortunately, more than you would like to see. He does get beat, but generally, he's where he needs to be, and he can be in positions to make plays. He's almost nabbed a few interceptions in the preseason, unable to hold on to the ball, but he is in position. And this is his third year in the scheme, maybe fourth, because I think he originally signed on with New England as an undrafted free agent. But regardless, pretty much his entire career has been in this scheme. And you can do a lot worse for your sixth or seventh corner when talking about young guys you're developing. Having someone who's been in the defense for 3-4 years, that's great to have on the back end of your roster. The Dolphins cornerback group gets an A+. It's one of the best ones in the game, and that's mainly due to your featured guy, Xavier Howard. Because I don't think people realize this. Howard is literally in his prime as we speak. He isn't falling off this season. This season, he's still at his peak. I expect north of 6 interceptions on the year and just a generally dominant season yet again. He looks hungry. His press conferences show he's right there mentally. He's not letting up. He also wants that new deal, so you know he's going to be playing hard. I cannot wait to see just how shut down this group can be. The new additions of Justin Coleman, as well as the growth and development of Nick Needham, and hopefully Noah Igbenogany. This unit can truly be something else. A+ easy. Moving on to safety, the Dolphins surprised me here too, because the guys kept were Eric Rowe, Brandon Jones, Javon Holland, Jason McCourty, and Clayton Fejedelem. This Fejedelem guy is probably a lot more important on special teams than I gave him credit for. Still, I would rather have seen them keep a guy like Shaquem Griffin or Kirk Merritt over Fejedelem. As a room, considering the young talent at the position, as well as, in my opinion, Pro Bowl level play from Eric Rowe over the last season and a half, I give the safeties a B. If Javon Holland develops into a young stud at the free safety spot and is able to make that impact for this defense on the back end, this grade will jump up very quickly. When we get to end of season grades, we'll compare. We'll compare what I hoped we would get from the groups. But this B is a safe estimate of where they will be because it all rides on Javon Holland's development because we know exactly what we're getting from Eric Rowe. At linebacker, this is where the biggest shock of the entire roster cut down was. I know Greg Little was my least favorite in terms of retaining, but this was by far my least favorite cut. I cannot wrap my head around it. The Dolphins are keeping Jerome Baker, Sam McGuavin, Andrew Van Ginkel, Jalen Phillips, Brennan Scarlett, Duke Riley, let go of Benardrick McKinney, and kept Landon Roberts. Freaking Landon Roberts. Former Pro Bowl middle linebacker Benardrick McKinney, someone who, albeit coming off surgery, should absolutely be someone utilized in this defense to help stop the run. Need I remind you that the run defense is literally the biggest weakness this team has? If we can stop the run, we're going to be a much better team, potentially a Super Bowl contender. Now, we have to rely on guys up the middle who aren't that great at shedding blocks, as well as making an impact against the run. It's been proven. I love you, Jerome, but buddy, you get washed down in the run game often. I thought Benardrick McKinney was brought in to be that thumper for this defense, but no, it seems the Dolphins brass would rather save money. I think that's dangerous, but we'll see in the end, because now at the middle linebacker spot, you have the aforementioned Baker, who's going to be solid, Duke Riley, who I think can serve as a Kamu Grugier-Hill replacement. Those guys are more your coverage linebackers. And then you have a Landon Roberts. And if you're a regular listener of this show, you know my general thoughts on Roberts. I don't like him. I think he's a one-trick pony. He can shoot the gap with the best of them, blow up the play, if he guesses right, because that's what he does. He guesses and hits the hole. He guesses it right, oh, it's a 0-yard gain, maybe a yard loss. But if he guesses wrong, you may as well write him out of the play. In pass coverage, Landon Roberts is a flat-out liability. I would so much rather have had Benardrick McKinney versus Roberts. But once again, guys who have spent time with Flores are getting the benefit of the doubt over other guys who have seemingly proven more in the league. I hate to say this because I love Flores and I believe in the overall direction of this team, but his general attitude towards retaining his guys is the most Adam Gase thing about him. Now, on the same token, and to be completely fair, he also got rid of those guys like Kyle Van Noy and Ted Karras, players whom he had experienced coaching before as well. But still, seeing guys like Jason McCourty and Landon Roberts make this defense is a little annoying. The linebackers as a whole, they get a B-. I like some pieces, but I think their one-dimensionality is going to hurt them at times. Miami has to stop the run. We're going to start the season week 1 against a team that is going to try and jam it down our throat. The only way the Patriots beat us, and we will get into this game, we will discuss this game ad nauseum in the coming days, but the only way New England's going to beat us is if they can run the ball. Not having a big thumping linebacker is going to be a problem. I hope to God Landon Roberts proves me wrong, but so far, from what I've seen, I don't think he's a viable option. I just think we're going to struggle. He's also injury prone. I'm worried. I'm worried about the linebackers. They get a B-. For the edge setters that we talked about, I love the edge setters. Brandon Scarlett, solid depth. Jalen Phillips given every opportunity to shine for this defense, and Andrew Van Ginkel, who's likely going to lead the bunch as he becomes a seasoned vet now. So the group is still good, right? And Jerome Baker. But again, the lack of size up the middle leaves them at a B-. Lastly, on the defensive side, the defensive line position. Nothing too surprising here, but I am sad to see a few guys go. Specifically, Jonathan Ledbetter, who was waived. I liked him a lot. Would love to see him brought back on the practice squad, as well as Benito Jones, who looked good. The guys who made the team, Raekwon Davis, Zach Sealer, Christian Wilkins, Adam Butler, John Jenkins, and Emmanuel Ogbah. Ogba's a bit different than the rest of them. He's more of a pass rush specialist, but his size makes him more versatile along the defensive line than some of those edge-setting linebackers. This group is deep, and seeing John Jenkins make the cut speaks to what I believe is the general theme of this defense, their thinness against the run. We just don't have fat guys that we can stick in there to plug up multiple gaps. John Jenkins can do that, but not Sealer or Wilkins, not on a consistent basis. You hope that Raekwon Davis really does take that step and can kind of act as that true nose tackle in his own right, because if he does and he becomes a dominant force on the line, then the depth of this rotation will shine. The defensive line gets an A- as well for me. Not one of these players, not one, is mediocre. You can argue John Jenkins is, but again, as a nose tackle, he's definitely above average. Everyone else can play all along the line, rush the passer well, and we have been in the same system now for multiple years. Again, something which will be key to this team's success is the fact that we have continuity for the first time in a long time. The scheme was implemented, then we had an offseason with it, another season, and now another offseason with it. The scheme and team philosophy only gets further and further cemented and ingrained the longer a coach has the reins. Solid depth and good young talent, especially in Raekwon Davis and Christian Wilkins, A- is fair. And lastly, the specialists. This group is an A+ for one simple reason. They have the best foot in the game. Pilardi looked great in his limited showing. He's got a bazooka for a leg. I think that first preseason game, he averaged like 63 yards per punt. I'm excited. Definitely an upgrade from Matt Hawk. Blake Ferguson, Mr. Automatic in the snapping department. He was born to be a long snapper. Plus, he offers some athleticism as a blocker. And, of course, the man himself, Jason Sanders. Remember, this staff believes in him a lot. They signed him to an extension a few months back. Sanders is going to be our guy at the very least through the 2026 season. Actually, the episode I made, it was at the start of the offseason, I'm pretty sure, excuse me, about the Dolphins extending Jason Sanders. It was pretty much a whole episode dedicated to him. By far the least viewed and least listened to episode. You guys hate kickers or something, huh? Definitely go back and check that one out. But the specialists get an A+. All in all, this team looks good. Our weaknesses are what they are. They are real. The youth along the offensive line, the inability to get consistent push in the running game, and on the flip side, a potential issue against the run. But the thing is, when you look at the roster macroscopically, the deficiencies make a little more sense. The Dolphins haven't poured their money or time into building a stout physical front focused on stopping the run. No, they want a dynamic secondary which shuts down the second and third levels of the field. That's why linebackers like Raekwon McMillan were phased out in favor of the Jerome Bakers. It's why the physical safety Rashad Jones was never brought back and he was let go. Instead, Bobby McCain was shifted to the back end. They want versatility, not just run-stuffing ability. And it's because the team is built in a certain way. Us as fans, it's important for us to remember that, so that when we criticize the team, we can do it with a better understanding of why they're making certain decisions. And if we still disagree, like I do with the Benardrick McKinney, we can voice them. But just blindly stating, Jerome Baker as your main linebacker isn't good enough. Well, in this defense, it is good enough. You just need support in the run game. I'm generally very happy with the team's direction. Absolutely thrilled for week 1, but there are definitely some decisions I'm going to keep my eyes on for the short term. What about you guys? Who is the biggest surprise cut for you, and how do you think this roster looks? Are we playoff contenders? Are we potentially more Super Bowl bound? Or are there holes which give you a lot of concern and could potentially derail our seasons? Let us know in the comments below. For now, just know I am absolutely sticking with my 12-5 season prediction. This team should be good, and I hope to the football lords that they will be.
Man, just getting respect from peers around the league, as coaches, players. That's what it's all about. And right now, man, just focus on trying to climb up, trying to be top 5, and really just out here just grinding and just trying to make my team better, myself. The culture, just being here 6 years, been through a lot of different coaches, and then, seeing a lot of different coaches, we just haven't really had just one culture that I feel like that can just help us, provide us, and win games. Flo brought that attitude in here, and I feel like that it's the guy for the team. So everybody just sticking to his plan, and hopefully we get the job done.
That's going to do it for us here today. Thank you guys so much for listening to the Fins Pod. Hope you enjoyed it as always. Thank you to Timothy Ritchie and Brian Guger, members of the pod and supporters of the show over on Patreon. Check that out. Links in the description, or head to patreon.com/FinsPod. Thank you all so much for the continued support. And please remember to like the video if you enjoyed the show. Subscribe just so you never miss a chance to chat about your Miami Dolphins. Remember that the pod's available on all platforms: Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts, and of course YouTube. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, if you could leave a review, greatly appreciate it. It will help other Dolphins fans find the show. Continue the conversation with us over on Twitter and Instagram at FinsPod. We put up a lot of polls, a lot of fan engagement stuff, so go over to Twitter and Instagram and check us out over there. I hope you all have an amazing day. Until next time, stay safe. Love y'all.